Ladies and gentlemen, our story begins not today, but in 1968. Imagine the grand opening of a luxurious skyscraper restaurant called Skyview. A young woman named Iris Campbell is there with her boyfriend, Paul. Their night is magical, but suddenly, Iris is hit by a terrifying premonition. She sees the glass floor shatter, a gas explosion, and the entire tower collapsing into a fiery grave. In a panic, Iris manages to evacuate hundreds of people, including herself, thus cheating death. However, death doesn't like being cheated. Although Iris saved those people, death begins to hunt them down one by one over the years. And because they survived, they had children who were never meant to exist. Now, death wants to erase the entire bloodline. We jump to the present day. A college student named Stefani is suffering from violent, recurring nightmares of the Skyview collapse. The dreams are so intense she has to leave college and go home. She discovers that the woman in her dreams, Iris, is her estranged grandmother. Stefani finds the elderly Iris living in a fortified shack in the middle of nowhere, hiding from death. Iris explains the terrifying truth. Because she cheated death in 1968, death is now coming for their entire family. To prove her point, Iris deliberately steps outside, and is immediately impaled and killed by a falling weather vane. She leaves behind a diary with clues on how to beat death. After Iris's funeral, the family gathers for a barbecue. Stefani tries to warn them, but they think she's crazy. Suddenly, a freak chain reaction occurs. A piece of glass, a lawnmower, and Stefani's uncle, Howard, is the first to die, his face shredded in a horrific accident. The family is shocked but still skeptical. Next, death targets Howard's son, Eric, a punk with metal piercings. In a nail-biting scene at a tattoo shop, a fire breaks out, but Eric survives, making everyone think death skipped him. But here's the twist. A comedy of errors leads to his sister, Julia, falling into a garbage truck. We watch in horror as she is crushed to death by the compactor. It turns out, Eric survived only because he has a different father. He's not a blood relative of Iris, so death doesn't care about him yet. The surviving family rushes to a hospital to meet a mysterious man named William Bludworth, played by the legendary Tony Todd in his final performance. Bludworth reveals he was actually a child who survived the 1968 Skyview disaster. He explains there are only two ways to break death's curse. Kill someone else and take their remaining lifespan, or die and be brought back to life. Desperate, Eric convinces his allergic brother Bobby to eat nuts, planning to revive him after he dies. They hide in an MRI room, but death has other plans. The powerful machine malfunctions, ripping the metal piercings from Eric's body and crushing him with a wheelchair. In the chaos, a flying metal coil from a vending machine drills straight through Bobby's skull. Both are dead in a splendidly gory sequence. Finally, only Stefani, her brother Charlie, and her mother Darlene remain. Following Bludworth's advice, Stefani and Charlie attempt to die temporarily so they can be revived and thus removed from death's list. In a tense climax, Stefani drives a car into a lake. She drowns, and Charlie rescues her, performing CPR. It seems to work. They survived. Months pass. But in true Final Destination fashion, the ending drops a bombshell. During a celebration, a doctor casually tells them that when Stefani drowned, her heart technically never stopped. She never actually died. And just as the realization hits, we cut to a horrific accident reminiscent of the famous log truck from Final Destination 2. Stefani and Charlie are killed instantly, confirming that no one escapes death. So, what is my final opinion on Final Destination? Bloodlines. Look, after a 14-year break, this franchise could have easily face-planted. But Bloodlines is a bloody, hilarious, and surprisingly fresh return to form. The directors, Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, clearly understand the assignment. They lean heavily into pitch-black comedy. Some critics even called this the funniest film in the series. The kills are insanely creative, blending practical effects with CGI to create absolute masterpieces of chaos. The opening 1968 disaster alone is worth the ticket price. The cast is solid, and Caitlin Santer-Warner makes for a compelling lead, but the emotional core truly belongs to Tony Todd. This was his final film, and his monologue about accepting death is deeply moving and brings a tear to the eye. Is the movie perfect? No. Some of the characters are pretty thin, and the logic can be as flimsy as a glass floor cracking under pressure. But who cares? This film doesn't pretend to be high art. It's a rollercoaster designed to make you scream, laugh, and cringe all at the same time. It honors the legacy while building a clever new mythology around a family curse. I'm giving Final Destination Bloodlines a strong 7.5 out of 10. It's one of the best sequels in the series, and a fitting, bittersweet goodbye to the horror icon Tony Todd. If you love creative gore, you absolutely cannot miss this.